Second. There we go. Now I got it figured out. So, do I deal with Medicaid and with private pay? I have had Medicaid patients before in my facility. I found it to be difficult to do Medicaid for a variety of reasons. The clientele typically is often difficult to work with, and the reimbursements are not very good for my business model, at least. There's two things I want to say about that. First off, you can make Medicaid work in two types of business models. First is volume. If you have a lot of people, if you have a lot of beds, you could potentially make it work because you're dealing with a high volume there. The other way to do it is through, for example, in Oregon, they have special need contracts where they're typically people who have higher acuity levels or particular kinds of diagnoses that need a greater amount of care, whether it's a mental health issue, a behavioral health issue, memory care, this sort of thing. Those are a different pay rate than like general population Medicaid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's what I was looking at, actually, like a skilled nursing, like nursing home, but skilled assisted living home,
Yep.
or skilled personal care home. Just because I am a nurse and I can find like a CNA to go up under me.
Yeah.
So I was looking at, like, so I've talked to a lady that comes into my facility now, and she said it's like really good money for developmentally disabled. I mean, clearly it's a lot of work, definitely a lot of paperwork, a lot of paper trail. But it's definitely worth it as far as income revenue goes, is what she's telling me.
Yeah. Yes. The developmental disability one in particular, I personally have no interest in that because I have a hard time. Like, I'm one of those people who like I empathize quickly and I feel for people really quickly, and it's hard for me. So I couldn't do it myself. More power to the people, who can and who are amazing and who have big hearts and can handle that sort of thing. I'm too soft, like everything hurts when I do stuff like that. I would be taking it home and I'd be stressed, and I've already lost hair off stuff, so I can't be doing more than that.
So what is your, like, what type of not patients, but residents do you deal with? Like a sober living home, or like what type, I guess, like just elderly patients that need a little bit of ADL care?
So I'll deal with patients that need even a lot of ADL care, as long as they're not. So if there's like a behavioral component involved, I typically will not take them. If there is a situation like, for example, they're exit seeking, I typically won't do that either. Just a second, I'm getting replies that people can't get into the Zoom. I've been having problems with Zoom all week. And typically what happens is all they have to do is like log out and log back in, and it works. So yeah, if they need a lot of ADL support, that's fine. I mean, I'm happy to, if we have staffing and all that. But if there's mental health or behavioral stuff, I don't deal with that. I typically don't take those kinds of residents. I'm really thorough in my selection process and my screening process. And also if there's a memory care, um, especially if they're exit seeking. If they're exit seeking in the middle of the night, they need to be in a memory care facility, like in a lockdown facility, so they don't end up wandering streets. And you never want that to happen. There's not only is there liability, but it can be dangerous for them.
Agree. So what type of like residence do you seek then? I guess is my question. Like, I mean, I get that there's so many different like homes, right? Like they have postpartum homes, like sober living homes. Like there's just so like I'm realizing there's just so many of these out here. Do you have like do most people have like a CNA or a PCT in their homes like this?
Most people don't. Most people
Okay, so
don't. Yeah.
you're just renting out two individuals per room, but they're like pretty much self-sufficient.
Okay. I must have misunderstood your last question.
So
Because
like there, I mean, for the most part, like, do you have like a caretaker in these homes, right?
yes, all homes have a caregiver, minimum one. They're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But that's for like a smaller home. If we're talking about like one caregiver, if we're talking about like 15, 16 residents, the rules and regulations dictate how many caregivers you're allowed to have per um, how many caregivers you have to have per resident.
Got it. And then so you basically like get people that doesn't need that much ADL assistance. Is that like where I'm getting from it? Like you could be choosy is what I'm saying,
You
right?
can be choosy for sure, but um, so a lot of my residents typically come in. Man, I'm not sure why people are having problems getting in here. Let me check, do one more time. So when people typically come into my home, they tend to be more independent. Okay. So, but they probably can't be by themselves. They oftentimes, dad's fallen and he can't really take care of himself anymore, or he forgets to eat, or he doesn't take his medications on time, that sort of thing. So they come into our home, and over time they tend to get worse, right? Their condition decreases, their health decreases. And we've had residents in our homes for 15 years, sometimes longer. And during that time, yeah, their independence is declining. They're needing more hands-on help with dressing, more hands-on help with bathing, all those ADLs there. So, like in Oregon, for example, there's 3 layers of ADL of assistance per ADL. It starts with being pretty independent all the way to, in the middle, it's like queuing, occasional hands-on care, that sort of thing. And then by the time they're at the third level, they're needing hands-on care for every aspect of ADLs. Um, so when people are in level 3 ADLs, they're needing a lot of hands-on help. They're no longer independent. They're typically wheelchair bound. They're typically, if not wheelchair bound, maybe bed bound. They're needing, you know, positioning help and dressing. All those ADLs they're needing help with. When a
So
patient is on hospice, for example, mostly they're mostly completely dependent by that time.
so where's your funding coming from? Is it like mostly private pay or is it long?
100% private pay.
100%. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And some states have different rules. Like in Oregon, for example, if you have a Medicaid resident, you can only accept the Medicaid rate. You can't say like my rate is 6,000, Medicaid pays half of it, you have to pay the other half. That's against the law in Oregon. You can't do that. So
Mm.
it depends on how the state has that specific rule. Some states do allow you to split it and charge more, but I think that's changed at the federal level now, and you can't do that anymore. So yeah, which is another reason why I don't know if we've talked about this before. I think we have about when you're setting up your business and the model that you're going to be doing. I give myself as an example. Like I typically want to have a higher end clientele because I'm only accepting private pay. And so I need a higher end house, typically in a nicer neighborhood. And I want to be providing as close to white glove type coverage as I can.
Gotcha. I think that's like my struggle is to like find like to think like somebody, I guess, like I get it. Like people sell their homes and move into this. But I guess the area that I'm in and the population that I see, I guess in the clinic, I'm like, how would these people even afford, like $3,500 or $4,000 a month? But I guess there's different clientels on different sides of town, and I just don't work in that side of town, maybe.
Yeah, totally understandable. Like a lot of um, a lot of my residents are typically females, and a lot of them come from backgrounds where their husbands typically work like a blue collar job, and he has a pension, and that pension passed on to the wife. And then there's Social Security on top of that, and maybe there's a retirement account on top of that. Plus, there's some of them have assets that they've sold that they're using to pay for their care. Um, I understand what you're saying. Like when you're like at that middle ring, maybe a little bit lower, it's hard to imagine where these people are paying for this. But if you're dealing with people who are a little on the higher end, they don't flinch when we're talking about higher prices. Um, it comes with the demographic.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I may consider it this way. If they were to go into like one of the big box facilities, they're paying upwards of 7, 8,000. So it makes sense for me to be like, why would you go there? You get better care here, and I'll only charge you 6,500. To them, it's like, oh, this is a no-brainer. Better care and at a better price, you
I
know?
think so. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you. I'm gonna turn
Yes,
my
Tina.
camera off and mute myself because you're gonna hear a lot of noise if I don't.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, Mitch, I see you here. If you have any questions, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, it's just open office hours and we can just hang out and look at each other if you want.
Hey, yeah, I'm multitasking, so I'm just kind of listening in right now.
No worries, brother. Do you have any questions or anything?
No, I did send you a message on Discord. I don't know if you saw it or not.
Um, let's see. Was it in the assisted living thread?
It was just a DM, but I also posted one last night in the assisted living thread. Basically, I have 3 facilities that I'm putting together for a purchase, and I got 2 other partners on it, and we're looking for private funding
Okay.
to bring them together. So initial reach out was just to see if you maybe had some contacts that potentially might be interested in funding, but then also if you got any input on the deals themselves and kind of the structure. This will be my first deal that I've done, and the 2 guys that I'm partnering with, they're currently owner operators of around 8 or 10 of them, half of which they own, the other half they just manage. And so they're looking to acquire more as well, but they're kind of tapped out on their finances. And so I've done a lot of legwork on these properties to structure the deal with the sellers and find them off market, and then put together sort of pitching for financing.
Mhm.
So my role in them moving forward is mainly just an equity holder on the real estate side, but basically doing all the legwork and the funding up front, and then partnering with my two partners to come in on the operations side to actually manage them, and they'll also be partial equity holders as well.
So there's three of you guys.
Yep. Yeah. Let me know if you found it or not. I can
Yeah,
also
facility
resend it
one, you're
again.
looking at 8.5.
Yep.
Okay. The real estate is 7, business is 1.5, gross income is 2.5. Vacancy.
Sorry for the noise.
60%.
I'm getting out of the
No,
wind
you're
right
fine.
now.
You're fine. NOI, you're looking at, okay. Cap rate. I mean, it looks like a great cap rate. You
And
guys
so,
are calculating 60% operating expenses.
yeah, so that for facility 1 and 3, that's a rough estimate based off of the P&Ls we've gotten so far. And then
Okay.
for facility 2, I've actually done a more thorough underwriting from their P&Ls, and actually came out exactly at 60% for them last year. But yeah,
60%.
curious to know how that compares to maybe some of your facilities and what you've seen in the past.
Okay. I'm looking at it. I'm just trying to sort of get a broad overview. There's 24 bed. So facility 1, there's 24 beds.
Correct.
But the picture shows like 4. These are like cottages.
So each one is a separate APN, or residential home, and then each home has 6 beds in it. So there's 4 homes, and then the
Okay.
5th structure is kind of like a community center.
Okay.
So they're each their own individual house. They're just single family residential homes, but it's kind of all structured on one large enclosed lot.
Yeah, these are beautiful. How long has this been in operation? Does it say here? I don't see.
To 2018.
2018. Oh, I see.
Yep.
Amazing. Okay, you got 2 executives, 3 administrators.
And that's how they currently have it staffed. And our plan is, so all 3 of these facilities are actually all within about a half-mile radius of each other. So potentially the plan would be to, better share some resources between the 3 facilities, because they're not all owned by the same people right now.
Yeah.
But that's currently what they have staffed at that facility. And my partners, we all went and looked at it. They actually thought it was a little bit overstaffed, which isn't a bad thing, but that was their opinion of where it currently was. So
Yeah, that's what I was getting the feel. Like 24 caregivers, unless you're doing one-on-one or one-on-two, it's a little bit overstaffed. 3 administrators, you might be able to get away with 2 executives. I mean, it depends like what they call these roles. Is it an RN that's on staff? So all that stuff. But it sounds like the guys know what they're doing in terms of operation and all that. Because I'm looking at, so facility 1 is 24 beds, and you've got 24, 29, 31 staff. And then the next one is half of that. But it's less than half of the staff, so those numbers are probably better. This one, facility 2, is 12 beds.
yep.
Man,
And that one's two separate houses, but 6 beds apiece.
6 beds apiece, like all on one lot, kind of.
No, they're separate. They're about one of them's about a minute drive down the road. They're in the same neighborhood, but not right next to each other. So there's a little bit of distance between them.
And they'll let you put it together like this in one?
In terms of the closing escrows, they're each owned by different entities, and some of them, the business and the real estate, is owned by different entities as well. So in terms of getting it closed, there's going to be a lot of different escrows, but then like it's going to be the same three partners on title for all of them. So we could just, once we have them closed, we can wrap them all up under one LLC if we choose to do so.
Yeah, but the
But
problem is if I'm looking at the facility 2 and you're saying facility 2 is 2 separate buildings, I'm assuming that there are 6 beds each in California.
Yep.
Roughly. So those are two separate businesses. You could commingle caregivers, administrators, that sort of thing, but I just haven't really seen it done like this where they're both looked at one. This is like a mini portfolio. It's like a portfolio of two homes, and that's what they're operating at. Okay.
And I think you're right. I remember they kind of have like a LLC 1 and a LLC 2.
Yeah, they would have to.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, you're buying it together. It's the same owner.
You mean same buyers for all of them?
No. The current owner of the 2 properties that are under facility 2, is it the same owner?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's why he's selling it together like a portfolio. Because like I was off for a second. I was like, 2 different people are selling you and you're pulling it into one portfolio. It's not usually kosher, But no, it's fine. So what you're saying is they're like at 1.5 each one. If we're talking about a 2.9.
Yeah, so we had it structured. I know so originally they're asking around 3.2 for everything. And then the business versus the real estate split was a little bit arbitrary for them because, they just care about their total payout price. But what we did is we had around 2 million of the purchase under the real estate. And then the third million to get up to 3 was going to be a full seller carry under the business for the business side.
Okay.
That being said, though, my partners who have done a couple of these are saying, well, in reality, the business side isn't worth $1 million. Business side is maybe worth like, say maybe 400 or 500K. But the reason we did that is because, he gave us good seller carry terms and no money down. So we put, a third of the purchase price under that business and seller carry note. But since we're trying to, the larger facility 1 came along later. And so that's the one we're trying to raise private money for, since there's going to be a lot of different escrows. And if we're looking at all 3 of these facilities, that's why we're trying to go the private money route, just to get things closed quickly and as fast as possible. So if that's the case, then, we'd probably come back with a lower price, since it would just be a cash buyout. And then I'm not sure how you typically structure or evaluate the business costs on these, but from their experience, they're kind of saying that, for that facility 2, they're thinking around 400 to 500K. And then for facility 3, like the smaller one, maybe the business is like 200, 250K. But I didn't know if you had any more insight on exactly how people kind of value the business side of these. It seems like it's more of just owners typically own both the real estate and the business, and they don't really care on the split. They just want to get the largest payout they can, right?
Exactly. You're right. The problem is, like, suppose this wasn't this situation. Suppose we were valuing any other business. You would typically look at, net income and value the business based on a multiple of that, right? Um, this is different. Although the business has value, it's hard to value it going forward after purchase because the government doesn't like it when you're valuing people. They don't like it when it's like, well, the business here is people and you can't buy and sell people.
Yeah.
We passed laws about that. So that's why it's hard to value the business side of this type of thing. So, because otherwise, if you think about it, let's say, facility 3, it's a 6-bed. If you're looking at, in California, let's say you're running this private 6-bed and you're charging, let's just make it 5K a bed. You're talking about 30K. And then to value it, you usually do like a 2 or 3 multiplier, depending on what kind of business it is. If it's a high margin business, So 2 or 3K multiplier, you're looking at max 100K here for the business. But it depends because the multiplier is different across, different states and all that. The facility 3 here, I would be leery about.
Go down and bring the food.
Thank you so much. I wouldn't be interested in this one, to tell you the truth, because you're gonna have issues. You said this one is close though to the other ones? Uh-oh, did I lose Mitch? Oh no, you muted yourself and now you can't unmute yourself. Give me 1 second, I can turn that off. There, now you can mute and unmute yourself. You should be able to.
There we go. Thanks. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
no problem. I had
What
that
was your
setting
question
turned
about
on. I had that setting turned on
facility
where you
3?
couldn't mute. Facility 3, is it close to the other ones in this package?
Yeah, it's actually it's adjacent to facility 1.
It's adjacent to facility 1, which is
Yep.
the cottages.
Yeah, the big one.
So, okay, let me ask you this. Those 4 cottages, and what time is it? I have a hard stop at 6, so we got time. Those 4 cottages, you said they're separate, right? They're separate properties.
Correct.
Okay. You're not buying each individual one. You're buying it all together as one property or one portfolio or one package.
Well, let me put it this way. Like you said, each property has its own business and APN. So they will be a separate escrow for each. But
Wow.
the facility 1 that you're seeing, the large one, it's all the real estate is owned by the same entity. But there are, like I said, it's 4 separate APNs, 4 separate businesses. So
why did they do it like that?
So they did the separate houses like that because if you're under 6 beds per residential home,
Got it.
there's no conditional use permit. There's no basically no permitting required. So
yeah, this is a residential.
Yeah, they did it that way. So I think they didn't want to have to worry about permitting and
no, I totally understand what they did here. Instead of building a 24-bed whatever on a commercial or business zoned lot, they bought a residential lot, subdivided it, but actually made it into one big thing. Perfectly,
Yeah.
I understand. Okay, I got what you're saying. And
In
you're
in
saying,
reality, it's got one big fence around all four lots, so it
yeah,
feels like one complex, but they're each their own APN on
got
paper.
it, got
Yeah.
it. And facility 3 on this paper is part of, it's like next door to those.
Yes.
Okay, so in reality, would you be able to treat this whole thing as 5 facilities on one?
Yes, you could.
And they're all owned by the same owner?
The facility 1 is the same owner on the real estate, and facility 3 is a different real estate owner, but the same owner that operates both businesses. So sorry if that's confusing, but it's a
No,
bit
it's
of
not.
yeah,
I completely am following. You have 2 different property owners, but it's one operator running the
correct.
businesses
Yeah,
in all 5 of the buildings.
correct. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
And
So that's why you can't structure it as a single uh, project. You have to put it together and
yeah,
perfect. I understand that. And it would make sense to bring it all under one owner because then it's cleaner that way for sure. I love it. That's a fun
so
project.
yeah, one question I have, if say if you were to traditionally finance these, the business side, does it have to be under an SBA loan, or is there another loan type that would cover the business side, or is there a real estate loan that would be like okay to lump the business side into that? From what I've found, it sounds like the answer is no, unless the business portion is, such a negligible amount that you can kind of squeeze it into the real estate loan and no one notices type of thing.
So an SBA loan will allow you to include the real estate that the business owns. So you should be able to do the real estate and the business together in an SBA loan.
I think we could, yes, but I think there's like a 4.5 or $5 million limit on the SBA loan. So for the larger facility, I don't think we could do it all under an SBA loan.
Well, what I'm saying is split it. So, for example,
So each one is a separate SBA loan.
you could potentially do it that way. Or what you can do is how much, okay, so facility 1, oh, I see what you're saying. Facility 1 is 8.5. And what was the limit? 4.5, I think?
I think it's between 4 and 5 million. Yeah, is the max
You would have to
SBA.
do some sort of commercial.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing is, okay, and tell me again, what is it that you guys need?
We right now, so basically my 2 partners who know how to operate them, that's their expertise. They have a ton of experience. That's all their info on the last sheet. They spent all their capital on
Hold on a
2
second, just a second.
properties.
I have to ask one more clarifying question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You guys are buying the real estate and the business. So all the operators here are being terminated. The agreements, the leases are being terminated with them, and you guys are taking over the properties and the businesses.
So no, there are like the 3 admins right now that are listed in that staff. They're not the owners. They're just admin. They're not owner operators. For the other facilities, yes, all the admins are owners, and so we would be hiring in to replace them. In the interim, my 2 partners will be running it. They're essentially owner operators, but their role is to staff them to a point where they're somewhat self-sufficient, and then at that point they can be in more of a less demanding role and more hands off, and then be able to move on to the next project. So that's kind of what they're good at, is You know, they're licensed and they operate them hands-on, but they're not, their goal is to own as much as they can and take on new facilities and bring them up to speed and staff them and value add and then move on to a new facility.
Perfect. So all these facility 1, 2, 3, you guys are buying the real estate and the businesses,
Correct.
and the old operators are not staying on.
Correct.
Okay.
There will be with exception of, there will be the 3 operators from the first facility that are currently there. They'll be kept on, because they're not owners at all. They're just purely admin.
Okay.
And so the
Got
way we kind of have the partnership split right now is, my 2 partners, they'll sign on and fully be on the business equity. I won't be signed on to any of the business equity. I'll just be signed on to the real estate equity, and then they'll have a smaller portion of the real estate equity to help compensate for, you know, them being the hands-on operators. So that's kind of how we have it split up right now.
Perfect. So your job is just to find funding then for, do you guys already have funding in place for part of it?
We had funding in place for facility 2, and then facility 1 and 3 came along. And so we're kind of in a position, like, we could write it up and get them all under contract right now, but we don't have funding in place yet for facility 1 and 3. So that's what we're trying to pitch right now and get at least some engagement or some interest on funding those 2 facilities. And then we'll try to write them up and get them under contract.
Okay. I mean, at these numbers, you're probably going to have to syndicate. You know, you might be able to find someone who can do it. I couldn't do this number. I can find someone who would be willing to syndicate and then sponsor you for a commercial loan. You know,
so
typically
find somebody that's willing to help set up the syndication and basically run the syndication, or you just mean invest into a syndication?
I mean, I can set up the syndication. That's not the problem. The other thing you can do, I'm just thinking out loud here. How much capital do you guys have to put down?
So that's for facility 2.
No, let's talk about all 3 of these as one portfolio now. How much capital will you guys have to put down on, what is it? On the 12.6 is what you're saying, right?
Correct.
This whole project is worth. How much do you guys have capital to put down on this?
Sorry, it's a little blurry. What's the 20?
Just a second. Let's see if I can.
It's like 2.5 million or something with 20% down, right?
No. So we're moving into commercial stuff here, right? If we're gonna structure like one big portfolio, so you could do residential if you did every single one of those properties separately.
Yeah, but
Like
sorry, I was referring to, so 20% down is kind of what when we're pitching to a single large private lender that's looking to fund the entire deal. We're trying to go for a 20% down payment versus, you know, a traditional 35%. But yeah,
you
so
guys have someone who's willing to do that?
We have someone that's entertaining it, so that's best case, but we'll see where it goes. We're kind of in the early stages of it, but it's not a guarantee. So that's why we're trying to shop all options.
Yeah, with a private money lender, you might be able to do that 20%. If you were to structure this whole thing together as one portfolio, you might have to get a commercial loan, like a multifamily type of, you know, residential commercial loan. something along those lines. And unfortunately, because of the economic climate right now, most of them will want 50%.
Got it.
So that
Yeah.
means, that means 50% of it you'd have to raise through a syndication, through private lenders.
Makes sense. So yeah, we obviously we don't have all the down payment. Personally, we could probably fund about half of it, but ideally, it's it's the less of the down payment that we have to fund, the better the project looks on returns. So our question kind of is, and I think why we started focusing on just the private money route is when we go the conventional route. My current lender is saying that, if you're raising outside money to bring in as the down payment on a conventional loan, they're not going to go for it.
Repeat that one more time.
So for the conventional quotes that we've got so far for the funds going into the down payment,
Okay.
they're saying that the banks want to see that money coming directly from your account, aka not borrowed elsewhere, not raised. It's money that you earned from,
Find a different bank.
Okay, you're saying there's
I
options.
lend on EMD on a daily basis. That's one of my biggest businesses. So but okay, it's slightly different because I deal with fix and flippers, or bigger institutional things, or wholesalers is my primary thing. But you should be able to find a bank who's willing to do this. It might be harder to find a bank that's willing to do this and also treat it like a non-recourse loan. Make the assets, make it hard money against the assets. But
so
I have a
you're
feeling you're gonna have a hard time finding a bank who will let you do the whole thing as one portfolio with 20% down. I would be concerned about that.
if you're saying there's a bank that will let us raise money elsewhere and doesn't have any stipulation to where the money's coming from.
No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is I don't think the bank will give you 80% of this. I think they're gonna come in way lower.
Yeah, I'm saying that's fine. If they're gonna let us raise money from wherever, then I don't think we'll have a problem coming in at 35 or even if it's 50. I think it's gonna take longer, but I think we could probably do it.
No, I mean that's how I would do it. If you're gonna treat this like an entire portfolio, you'd have to get a commercial loan, which is doable. You're gonna have to find 50% of this to put down, probably raised through a syndication. My best guess.
So
now I can see you.
Yeah, I figured I'd show my face. Do you think the easier way to go about it is to split it all up and have it be, like 6 or 7 smaller individual loans versus trying to lump it all into one?
You're going to be paying higher fees and stuff, because there's a lot more to do there.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to, let me see if I can back out of this. So this one, you can get 4 different loans on this, but I don't know. You know what? Another thing you can do is get like a residential portfolio loan. That's also an option.
Is that trying to think, is that the same thing as like a group home loan? That's something that's someone else was recommending as well.
No, slightly different. The other thing I'm thinking about here is, so FHA. I remember seeing a, oh, here it is. Okay, mortgage insurance for nursing home, blah, 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 all this stuff. So this is a HUD. This is a HUD thing. And I know they have specific, are you seeing this? Are you
Yep.
seeing my screen?
Well, I can see it, but I can't really read it. It's a little blurry.
Yeah, so if you search HUD, here, I'll put this in the chat. I don't know if it's going to help you any, but I can put it in the chat. Let's see. Bang, bang. Okay, I put the link to it in the chat.
Cool. Got it. Thanks.
Okay, this is mortgage insurance for this, but if you search around through here, I know they have a specific loan product that is specifically for assisted living facilities. So look into it.
Cool.
Now, conversely, there's a few different options you can walk down here. And we can continue that discussion if you'd like, for sure. I'm happy to.
Yeah, if I don't want to take up all the time. If other people have questions too, they can jump in. I'm running a little short on time myself, but yeah, I would love to pick your brain more on.
Let's connect on Discord. I found your thing on Discord, and what we can do
Cool.
is I'm recording this, so I'll pass it on to one of my partners, and we'll see what we can do.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate it. That's essentially the biggest hurdle for us right now is figure out what is the kind of the quickest way to fund this. Maybe not even the cheapest rate, but just like the quickest way we can bring in funding to get the deal closed, because they are off market, but there's other interested buyers as well. So we're trying to at least get some plan together so we could get it wrapped up. But it is a huge project with a bunch of different pieces. So
Yeah,
not quite sure.
and I have another partner who might be interested in just sponsoring the loan. So you can use him as credit partner, and then let me wrap my mind around it for a day or two.
Yeah.
Mitch, it's good seeing you, man.
Good.
I hope we can make something happen of it.
Hey,
It'll be fun.
nice. Yeah, sounds good. Nice meeting you too, and I appreciate the time and all the input. And we'll talk more soon.
Of course. Thanks, man.
Cool. Thanks.
If anyone else has any questions, I see Josh York here. What's up, Josh York? How are you? Let's see. Do I have to unmute you? Or you just don't want to talk to me? Well, if there's nothing else, you guys, I have to jump off because I have to go to a meeting at 6, and I gotta drive over there. But it's only 5 minutes from my house. But anyway, I appreciate you guys. Every Thursday, 5 p.m. Central Time, I do a assisted living Zoom. You guys are welcome to come out anytime. All right. Also, yeah, you're welcome. Hit me up in the Discord chat under assisted living. I'm always in there. I know that there is. I know Lindsay. Is it Lindsay? I think it's Lindsay who also does Zooms Thursday morning, kind of like a shorter Q&A thing. She's great. Her and her team are great. I've met with them. I would like to work with them too. It'd be awesome. So thanks, you guys. Have a great one. Bye.